Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again to sift through the noise, find the signal, and turn complex ideas into stuff you can actually use.
That's the plan.
So today we're plunging into a topic that, well, it touches nearly every single one of us, often without us even realizing just how deep it goes. It's that relentless, sometimes really subtle tug of war for our attention in this modern world. You know the feeling, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You open an app, just for a second, you think, and suddenly, whoosh, an hour, maybe more, has just vanished, gone.
Or you grab your phone for one quick essential thing, check the weather, maybe, and then suddenly you're just scrolling endlessly.
Yeah, lost in that digital haze, jumping from one shiny notification to the next. And look, this isn't just, a fleeting bad habit we need to break.
No, it's much bigger than that. It's a genuine battle for your focus.
Yeah.
And it's a battle orchestrated by forces, by systems that are way more sophisticated than our individual willpower sometimes feels.
It's like this environment has been meticulously engineered, hasn't it? By people who really understand behavior.
Exactly. Behavioral engineers.
Yeah.
Our digital landscape, it's like a master class in designing for maximum engagement. It's constantly trying to grab and hold our attention for as long as physically possible.
We're living smack dab in the middle of what people call the attention economy.
Right. And in that economy, your focus, your attention, it isn't just your personal resource anymore. It's become this valuable, tradable commodity. It's constantly being bought and sold by platforms, by advertisers.
And it feels like we, the users, we're often the ones paying the highest price, maybe in lost time, lost focus, lost connection.
Lost presence.
So for this deep dive, our mission, our goal, is to explore how some really ancient Stoic philosophy, specifically the virtue of temperance, offers a surprisingly powerful, really practical way to navigate this very modern digital mess.
That's like a timeless toolkit, isn't it, for what you might call digital minimalism?
Exactly. And it's not necessarily about, ditching all technology and living in a cave.
No, definitely not.
It's more fundamental. It's about mastering your relationship with technology, reclaiming your focus, cutting down on that unnecessary screen time, and ultimately cultivating a more deliberate, more present, a more fulfilling life.
That's the core of it. And to guide us on this, we've cast a pretty wide net into the wisdom of the ages, drawing on some really core sources.
Right. Where are we pulling from today?
Well, we're going straight to the foundational Stoic texts. Think Epictetus, his discourses, his handbook, Seneca, his letters from a Stoic on anger. And of course, you can't talk Stoicism without Marcus Aurelius and his meditations.
Big three.
Big three, yeah. But we're also leaning heavily on some brilliant modern interpreters who help bridge that gap between ancient Rome and, our pocket supercomputers. People like William B. Irvine, Massimo Pigliucci, Donald G. Robertson.
David Fiedler, Lawrence Becker, John Sellers, Pierre Hadot.
Exactly, among others. This mix of ancient wisdom and really sharp modern scholarship, that's going to be our compass as we try to unpack this ancient art of living deliberately in our, let's face it, hyper-connected, often overwhelming world.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. Section 1. The core of Stoic temperance and how it helps us reclaim that inner control. And maybe the first thing we need to do is clear up a big misunderstanding.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The stereotype.
The stereotype. When people hear Stoicism, I think many immediately picture someone completely emotionless, like Mr. Spock from Star Trek.
Right, the logical Vulcan. Apparently, Gene Roddenberry even based Spock on a sort of, a pretty basic understanding of Stoicism.
But that image, that stiff upper lip, it couldn't be further from the actual philosophy, could it? It's way more nuanced than that.
Absolutely. It's probably the biggest and most persistent misunderstanding. This idea of just suppressing all your emotions, gritting your teeth.
Yeah.
It completely misses the point.
So what is the point then?
Stoicism isn't about becoming some unfeeling robot or denying that you're human. As Massimo Pigliucci puts it really well, it's about acknowledging our emotions, definitely feeling them, but then taking the next crucial steps,
Which are?
Understanding their causes, critically examining, where they come from, what they're telling you. And then this is key, actively redirecting them for your own good,
Where?
for your flourishing.
So it's an active process, not passive suppression.
Exactly. It's a deeply engaged, really dynamic philosophical practice. It involves, thinking about the theories, the precepts, but also reading stuff that inspires you, and crucially, consistently engaging in practices. Things like meditation, mindfulness, various other, you could call them spiritual exercises. It's all about self-mastery, not self-erasure.
And it's kind of amazing how a philosophy with roots going back so far feels so incredibly relevant to our very modern problems, especially with tech.
Isn't it just? It started way back Athens around 300 BCE with Zeno, a Phoenician merchant.
Right, the shipwreck story.
Yeah, the story goes he got shipwrecked, lost everything he owned, which sounds devastating, but for him, it apparently opened the door to philosophy. He lands in Athens, starts learning from the philosophers there, and eventually starts teaching his own ideas.
And he taught at the Painted Stoa, a public colonnade.
Exactly, the Stoa Poikile, which
Mhm.
is literally how the philosophy got its name, Stoicism, from the Stoa.
And its adaptability across different lives is just staggering when you look at who practiced it.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
one of its most compelling aspects. You look at Seneca, right? Hugely wealthy, tutors to the Emperor Nero, deals with exile, eventually faces execution,
Hmm.
finds his anchor in Stoicism through all of it.
Then there's Epictetus, starts life as a slave, endures a physical disability, gets banished from Rome later on.
And yet he rises to found his own really influential school, becomes this major Stoic teacher, emphasizing inner freedom above absolutely everything else,
Yeah.
because that's what he had.
And then the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, ruling the known world, basically, dealing with constant war, illness, family problems.
And he's writing his meditations in his tent on the frontier, a personal journal, using Stoicism to guide himself, to find solace. It's incredible.
So from a slave to an emperor, wealthy statesman to shipwrecked merchant, it really shows this isn't just for one type of person or one set of circumstances.
Precisely. It's a universal guide to living well, finding resilience, no matter what life throws at you externally.
Which brings us to a metaphor that feels really potent for today's discussion.
The philosopher as a doctor.
Ah, yes. Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' teacher, and Epictetus himself were very clear on this.
What do they say?
They said the philosopher's school isn't a place for entertainment, it's a hospital for souls, a doctor's clinic.
Wow, a hospital for souls.
Yeah. Its purpose isn't immediate pleasure or making you feel comfy, it's therapy. Often challenging, sometimes even painful therapy that forces you, compels you to confront your faults, your mistaken beliefs, your harmful habits.
So you can actually remedy them, heal them. Exactly. And if you apply that lens to our digital lives, our relationship with technology, it becomes a really vital perspective for diagnosing and maybe treating what often turn into genuine digital addictions or compulsions.
So it reframes philosophy. It's not just abstract thinking, it's practical medicine for the mind.
Deeply practical, therapeutic,
Yeah.
designed to heal and strengthen your inner self, your core. And the ultimate goal of all this Stoic practice, this soul healing,
Mm-hmm.
it's tranquility. The Greek word is eudaimonia,
Which isn't just feeling happy for a bit, right? It's deeper.
much deeper. Seneca described it beautifully as an unbroken and lasting joy. He often used the sun as a symbol, this constant inner light that isn't dependent on whether the external clouds are there or not.
So it's a profound, lasting inner peace that doesn't rely on external stuff, like getting likes or having a good day online.
Exactly. It doesn't depend on circumstances or the whims of fortune, digital or otherwise. It's a byproduct of living virtuously, living in accordance with reason, and engaging in consistent mindful practice. As Piglici notes, this kind of deep well-being is something that is good for any human being.
And maybe especially relevant, even urgently needed for us today, battling the constant digital overwhelm, the fragmentation of our focus.
Absolutely. It's the polar opposite of those fleeting dopamine hits you get from social media, the likes, the notifications, the endless stream of viral content. Those are just temporary fixes.
Yeah, they fade so fast, leaving you kind of wanting the next one, chasing the dragon almost.
Right, eudaimonia, that stoic tranquility. It's the deep, steady current beneath all those choppy surface waves. It's stable. It's internal.
So, eudaimonia isn't just happiness, but this profound, lasting inner peace that comes directly from living virtuously. And in the attention economy, we're constantly offered those little hits, those dopamine snacks, the likes, the notifications, the viral clips. How does the stoic pursuit of eudaimonia stand in such stark contrast? And how do we even start cultivating that deeper peace instead of just chasing the next digital fix?
Well, the contrast is fundamental. It's about the source. Digital gratification is external. It's conditioned. It's literally designed by others to keep you seeking more. Eudaimonia is internal. It's self-generated. It aims for self-sufficiency, for contentment, regardless of external input.
Okay, so how do you cultivate it then? How do you start?
You start by recognizing that the deep, abiding joy comes from aligning your will, your choices, with what is rational and virtuous for a human being, which for Stoics includes being pro-social. It doesn't come from external praise or fleeting digital buzz.
So it means consciously choosing activities.
Yes, Actively choosing activities and interactions that actually nourish your rational nature, your social connections, your moral compass, rather than those that just provide a momentary distraction or ego boost. It's a gradual process, an internal reorientation. You slowly start valuing the quiet, steady contentment of a well-ordered mind over the frantic roller coaster of external validation and excitement.
Which leads us perfectly into something really practical for our digital lives, the dichotomy of control.
Ah, yes. Epictetus' core teaching. You could argue it's the absolute foundation of practical Stoicism.
And the idea is,
It's about making a sharp distinction, clearly separating what is truly within your power, your control, from what is not. Epictetus is very direct. The only thing really under our control is our will.
our will. What does that include specifically?
It includes our opinions, how we interpret things, our impulses, what we feel drawn to do, our desires, our urges, what we seek and what we avoid, and crucially, our assent, how we choose to respond to impressions, whether we accept them as true or right, everything else, outside our control. Whether other people's actions, our reputation, algorithms.
Okay, stop there. Let's apply that directly to the attention economy. How does that filter work?
Think about it. We have complete, absolute control over where we place our attention. That's internal. We control how we choose to spend our time clicking this, ignoring that. That's internal. And crucially, we control our reactions to digital stimuli, our judgments about them. That's internal.
But we don't control.
We do not control the algorithms specifically designed to hook us. We don't control the content other people post. We don't control the notifications popping up unless we choose to let them control us by reacting impulsively or giving them undue importance.
So the Stoics would say if we let those external things dictate our inner state, our peace, our mood, we're making a huge mistake.
A fundamental error, yes. We're essentially giving away our most precious resource, our inner freedom, our tranquility. We're outsourcing our well-being to forces that, frankly, often don't have our best interests at heart.
That's a powerful, almost unsettling thought. We're literally gambling with our happiness every time we do that.
Exactly. One of the modern sources we looked at calls this the best bet argument.
The best bet argument.
Yeah. It says if you bet your peace of mind, your happiness, on things that are not completely in your control, like waiting for the perfect Instagram feed, or getting a certain number of likes, or needing everyone online to agree with you, you are, quite literally, willingly forfeiting part of your happiness to random chance. You're betting on things you can't guarantee.
Can you give us a couple of clear examples? Where do people unconsciously make this losing best bet in their digital lives? What does that look like day to day?
Oh, easily. Picture someone posting something online, a photo, an opinion. Then they're constantly checking, refreshing, waiting for the likes, the positive comments. Their peace of mind is now entirely dependent on the external reaction of others, completely outside their control.
And if the likes don't flood in, or worse, a negative comment appears.
Their mood tanks. Anxiety spikes. Disappointment sets in. They feel powerless. They made a best bet that they'd get the validation they craved and they lost. That's the immediate consequence.
And long term.
Long term, this cycle breeds a really fragile self-esteem, a constant hunger for external approval, and it seriously diminishes your ability to find contentment from within. Or think of someone glued to news feeds, their emotional state rising and falling with every political headline or social media outrage about things they can't directly influence.
Yeah, the frustration, the anxiety just becomes this constant background hum. Their inner calm is just gone, eroded.
Utterly eroded. They've bet their peace on the external world behaving exactly as they wished, which it never does.
So the real battle isn't necessarily against the algorithm itself, but against our interpretation of its attempts to hook us. That flips the script entirely.
It does. It shifts the whole strategy.
Yeah.
And Epictetus nails this when he says, it is a man's own opinions which disturb him.
Not the external thing itself.
Not the external event itself, no. It's your judgment about it. If you decide that a particular social media trend is awful, or a notification is urgent, or someone's comment is devastating, then that judgment, that internal story you tell yourself, that is the actual source of your disturbance, not the pixels on the screen.
And Marcus Aurelius echoes this, right? Asking that really pointed question.
Yeah. In his meditations, he asks himself, discard the judgment and you'll be saved. Who then is stopping you from discarding it?
Wow, that's incredibly direct.
It is. It's a radical call for self-responsibility. He's saying the power to remain undisturbed lies entirely within your capacity to manage your judgments, your interpretations. The only thing stopping you from letting go of a disturbing thought is you. It's a game changer for handling the constant barrage of digital threats to our peace.
Okay, so if we accept we can't control the external digital chaos, what's the stoic move? You mentioned a kind of fatalism.
Yes, but it's a specific kind. Not fatalism about the future they believed in acting virtuously towards future goals.
Mhm.
It's fatalism about the past and the present.
Meaning?
Meaning, when events happen as they do happen, as Epictetus says, you accept them as reality. This isn't passive resignation, like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's an active, clear-eyed acceptance of the digital world as it is, its addictive design, its noise, its constant change. You accept that reality instead of wasting energy being angry or frustrated or wishing it were different.
And then, once you accept it,
Then, crucially, you focus all your energy on what you can control, your response, your actions, your attention.
yeah, what does that active acceptance look like, practically? For someone feeling totally overwhelmed by emails, notifications, the endless feed?
Practically, it means first acknowledging the reality, saying, okay, these platforms are designed to be addictive. Not fighting that fact, just recognizing it. Accepting, yes, I will encounter opinions I dislike, misinformation, and things that trigger comparison online, because that's the nature of this space.
So it's like accepting it might rain today rather than raging against the clouds.
Exactly. It's not about liking it, but acknowledging it's the weather pattern you're dealing with. Once you accept that reality, you free up all the mental energy you were spending in futile resistance or complaint,
And that freed up energy.
can then be redirected to what you can control, setting boundaries, choosing when and how you engage, deciding where your attention goes, managing your internal reactions. It's shifting from, why is this happening to me, to, okay, given that this is the situation, what's my wisest, most virtuous move right now?
And that leads us right into the next key Stoic practice, the discipline of assent. This sounds critical for navigating that attention battle.
It is absolutely critical. This discipline is all about constantly subjecting our initial impressions and impulses to examination before we react, before we grant them our assent.
So not just impulsively clicking, sharing, commenting, liking.
No, it's about inserting a pause, taking a mental step back, and considering before you act, asking, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this necessary? Is this reaction-wise?
Yeah, pause feels like the crucial ingredient.
It's vital. Because for the Stoics, even what feels like a knee-jerk reaction, an automatic impulse, they consider it an act of assent. We are ultimately responsible because we have the capacity, as rational beings, to choose how we interpret and respond to any impression.
Even animals assent, in a way, right? But it's different for humans.
Right. Animals might yield to an impression based on instinct, see food, eat food. It's a more direct stimulus response. But for humans, the Stoics argued, our reason permeates our whole soul. Our impressions and impulses are filtered through, or at least have the potential to be filtered through, our rational faculty.
So when we feel that pull to scroll endlessly or react instantly to an email or buy that thing we just saw advertised, it's not uncontrollable.
Not fundamentally, no.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for our reason, our rational mind, to step in and decide. Do I grant assent to this impulse? Do I follow this desire? Or do I withhold assent? Do I choose differently? That moment of choice is uniquely human.
So assent is more than just reacting. It's like giving our internal stamp of approval to an impression or an impulse. Can you unpack that a bit more, maybe with an analogy? How does the human rational assent differ from an animal's yielding when dealing with, say, the urge to check notifications constantly?
Okay, think of your mind like having a gatekeeper. For an animal, an impression comes with the sound of a predator and the gate just swings open. Instinct takes over, they yield, they run. There's no deliberation at the gate.
Makes sense.
For a human, when an impression arrives at the gate, ding, a notification. Someone liked your photo, breaking news. It doesn't automatically get through. Your rational mind is the gatekeeper. You have the power, the capacity to stop it at the gate and examine it.
To question it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To ask, is this actually important? Does this require my immediate attention? Is reacting to this right now aligned with my goals and values? Is this even true? If you consciously choose to open the gate and let the reaction happen, check the notification, feel the anxiety from the news that's your assent. If you choose to examine it and keep the gate closed, maybe deciding this can wait or this isn't worth my energy, that's withholding assent.
So the practical difference is that internal dialogue, that moment of conscious choice at the gate.
Precisely. The animal just yields. The human assents or dissents based on reason, ideally. For the urge to check notifications, the impression is something new, potential reward or threat. The rational gatekeeper should ask, is checking this now the best use of my limited time and attention? Will it truly benefit me or just fragment my focus? Your decision in that pause is your ascent or descent.
That's a brilliant analogy, the gatekeeper. And Marcus Aurelius, thinking like that gatekeeper, warns us specifically about letting needless fancies through the gate, doesn't he?
He does. Things that don't directly relate to our core nature as rational social beings. This is so incredibly relevant to the endless stream of often trivial stuff in our digital feeds.
Like what kind of stuff?
Oh, obsessing over virtual items in a game, getting sucked into celebrity gossip, endlessly replaying an awkward online interaction in your head, comparing your life to carefully curated influencer posts. All that mental clutter.
And Marcus advises pausing, reflecting.
Yes, asking yourself, is thinking about this, dwelling on this really necessary? And what is doing so actually doing to my character, bit by bit? He also mentioned 4 mental movements that challenge our progress, didn't he? Needless fancy was the first. Go over the others again briefly.
Good question. Besides needless fancy, those distracting, often trivial thoughts, he also highlighted rash assent.
Rash assent. So, jumping to conclusions, believing things too quickly.
Exactly. In the digital world, that's believing every headline, sharing every meme without checking, getting swept up in outrage based on incomplete info. Huge problem online.
Okay. What else?
Impulsive action. Acting without thinking first. Driven by the initial urge.
Like the knee-jerk, angry comment, the instant purchase from an ad.
Precisely. Clicking buy now without pausing. Sharing something controversial without considering the impact.
Got it. And the last one.
Selfishness or antisociality. Acting only for your own gain or pleasure, ignoring your connection to others or your duties.
Online, that could be trolling, spreading negativity just because you can, using platforms purely for self-promotion without offering any real value.
Yeah. So those 3, rash assent, impulsive action, and selfishness, they all find incredibly fertile ground in our digital landscape. It really drives home how these ancient insights are almost tailor-made for today's challenges.
It's uncanny, isn't it?
And a powerful tool against these, especially against rash assent and those needless fancies, is that skill of distinguishing facts from judgments. Epictetus' advice: speak without judging.
Right. His examples were simple. Someone bathes in haste. Don't say he bathes badly, but in haste. Someone drinks a lot of wine. Don't say he drinks badly, but a lot.
Yeah.
Stick to the observable facts.
So applying that to digital life, instead of seeing an influencer's post and judging their spending as bad or wasteful, you just observe the facts. They posted about buying this item. How does sticking to facts save us from jumping to judgments we don't have enough info for? And maybe more importantly, how does it stop us from getting all worked up emotionally?
It's incredibly liberating, actually. It keeps you grounded in reality. When you just observe the facts, you maintain a neutral, objective stance. You see a political post, instead of immediately assenting to the judgment, this is outrageous, this is the worst thing ever, you simply observe, this policy was announced with these stated goals and components.
You strip away the emotional charge.
Exactly. The judgment, the strong emotion, anger, anxiety, envy, frustration, often comes from our own biases, our lack of full information, or sometimes just, as Seneca called it, an appetite for indignation. We almost look for things to be angry about.
Yeah, that happens online a lot.
By consciously stripping away the judgment, you prevent that immediate emotional hijack. You save yourself the turmoil of railing against something you might not fully understand or it's outside your control anyway. It keeps you closer to the truth, prevents self-deception, and helps you maintain that unruffled temper Epictetus prized. Priceless in today's often toxic online spaces.
Maintaining an unruffled temper. I like that. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Stepping back, avoiding instant judgment, creates space for a calmer, more rational response. Which brings us neatly to the next big Stoic discipline, the discipline of desire. This is where we really get into moderating our digital appetites.
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road for digital minimalism, Stoic style.
And Seneca has that famous line, right? If you want to get rich instantly.
Stop thinking about adding to your money, but instead subtract from your desires. A profound insight.
And translating that to the attention economy.
It means consciously, deliberately reducing our craving for constant digital stimulation, lessening the desire for the notification ping, the endless novelty of the feed, the next viral hit, the validation of likes, subtracting those desires.
It's such a countercultural idea today, isn't it? Everything pushes us to want more stimulation, more content, more connection.
Totally countercultural. Seneca saw clearly that unchecked desires, especially for fleeting pleasures, inevitably lead to a lack of self-control. They lead to dissatisfaction because the appetite grows with feeding.
Like you said, just as gluttony ruins physical health.
Unchecked digital desire can absolutely ruin your focus, your mental well-being, and frankly, waste incredible amounts of your finite time. You become insatiable, always scrolling, always seeking the next little hit, but never feeling truly satisfied. There's often just this vague sense of lack, even when you're drowning in information and content.
And the Stoics had this category of preferred indifference, right? Things like wealth, health. They're preferable to have, but not essential for a good life.
Exactly. There are advantages, sure. Nice to have if you can get them virtuously. But they are indifferent to your actual moral character, your virtue, which is the only true good. And crucially, they warned against becoming enslaved by these preferred things.
Seneca himself was wealthy, but he argued.
He argued it's fine to use fortune's gifts, like wealth or status or tools, as long as you are not enslaved to them. As long as you could lose them without losing your inner peace.
And that distinction is critical for digital tools, isn't it? Use them, but don't let them own you. How do we know? How do we tell if we're the master of our phone or if it's become the master of us? What's the litmus test?
That's the million-dollar question, and the Stoic answer is pretty clear. The test is how you react to its absence. If the thought of being without your phone or if it running out of battery or missing notifications fills you with genuine distress, anxiety, anger, or a gnawing sense of incompleteness, then you're likely enslaved.
So if you feel that phantom vibration or that immediate panic when you can't find it.
Those are strong indicators, yes. If you feel overwhelming FOMO, fear of missing out when you're offline, or if going a day without checking social media feels genuinely deeply uncomfortable, you've probably crossed the line.
So how should it feel then, ideally?
Ideally, a Stoic would say you're using a tool effectively when it serves a specific deliberate purpose that aligns with your values, and it doesn't disrupt your inner tranquility. You use it to connect meaningfully, to learn something useful, to coordinate necessary tasks. But the moment it becomes an automatic reflex, a source of constant low-grade anxiety, or a substitute for real-world interaction and focus, you're in servitude. The tool owns you.
Right. And to test that mastery, to really see our attachments clearly, Seneca had that exercise he suggested to his friend Lucilius, practicing poverty.
Brilliant exercise. He told him basically, set aside a few days, live on the absolute minimum, cheapest food, rough clothes, really experience less.
And then ask yourself that killer question.
Is this what I was fearing? The goal was to confront the fear of deprivation head on and realize that the reality of less is often far less terrible than the fear of less. It builds resilience against the fear of loss.
And we can totally adapt this practicing poverty to our digital lives, can't we?
Absolutely. What would it look like for you listening right now to consciously limit your digital consumption to the least amount? Or the cheapest kind, meaning stuff that demands less cognitive load, less emotional energy for a set period.
Like a digital Sabbath, turning things off for a day or a weekend.
Exactly. Or maybe a week using only essential apps, no social media, no endless news feeds, or even trying a dumb phone for a bit, or just turning off all non-essential notifications.
I'm imagining trying a full digital Sabbath totally off the grid for 24 or 48 hours. What's the very first feeling most people get when they attempt that? And what do the Stoics teach us about handling that initial, maybe panicky discomfort, that urge to just check? Is it sheer willpower or something else?
The first feeling is almost always anxiety, a kind of jitteriness, like a phantom limb feeling for your phone. You'll feel the twitch, the urge to check, a vague sense that you're missing something vital. Maybe even low-grade panic for some.
Okay, so what do we do with that feeling?
The Stoics teach us that this discomfort isn't a signal of actual danger. It's a judgment your conditioned mind is making about the absence of digital stimulation. It's your habit screaming, "We need this."
So the practice helps expose that.
Exactly. Practicing digital poverty, even briefly, weakens that attachment. It helps you diagnose. Is this reliance a true need or just a habit born of unexamined desire? Is it fear of missing out, a craving for validation? It lets you ask that critical question about being disconnected. Is this feeling, this discomfort, what I was so afraid of?
And often the answer is,
Often the reality is much less scary than the fear. You survive. The world doesn't end. And you might even discover some peace. So it's not just about gritting your teeth with willpower in the moment. It's about systematically re-educating your desires, challenging your assumptions about what you truly need to feel okay or even happy.
this connects so well to another technique Marcus Aurelius used for managing desires, neutralizing those needless fancies.
Right. Back to those mental challenges. Needless fancy, being the first dwelling on stuff not directly related to our rational social nature. pining for virtual stuff, getting lost in celebrity drama, replaying online arguments,
All that mental noise the internet amplifies like crazy.
a thousandfold. And to cut through it, Marcus practiced what's called depreciation by analysis.
Depreciation by analysis sounds intense.
It is, kind of. He'd objectively describe things, breaking them down into their basic, unglamorous parts to strip away their seductive power, their allure.
Like his famous description of physical intimacy.
Exactly. Describing it in purely mechanical biological terms. Merely the rubbing together of body parts followed by a convulsion, the ejaculation of some mucus. Not exactly poetry,
Yeah.
but effective for him in neutralizing inappropriate or distracting urges by removing the romantic or fantastical overlay.
Wow. Okay. Direct. But you can absolutely apply that same technique to our common digital cravings, right? When you feel that powerful urge for just endless scrolling. How would you describe that act using depreciation by analysis? How do we strip the glamour off obsessively checking a social media feed?
You pull back the curtain, expose the mechanics. So for endless scrolling, you can say to yourself, this is merely moving my thumb repeatedly across a cold, smooth, illuminated glass screen. This action triggers algorithms to display fleeting images and text fragments, causing a temporary chemical reaction, a little dopamine squirt in my brain. This sensation quickly fades, often leaving me feeling vaguely restless, dissatisfied, or like time just evaporated.
Okay, yeah, that takes the magic out of it. What about impulse buying online?
You could describe it as, this is the act of clicking a button to exchange a portion of my finite life energy I previously traded for money for a physical object. This object promises a momentary thrill of novelty, but will likely soon become familiar, contribute to clutter, and may not significantly improve my well-being in the long run.
It's about that objective, unromantic description, stripping away the hype, the perceived importance, the emotional charge.
And revealing the digital fancy for what it often is. A series of simple physical actions leading to pretty ephemeral psychological states, often with hidden costs like lost time or energy.
But the goal here isn't to become a monk, right? It's moderation, not total obliteration of desire.
Definitely moderation. The aim isn't to kill all desire or avoid all digital pleasure. It's about moderating the unhealthy or excessive desires, the ones that place way too much importance on certain kinds of fleeting pleasure, external validation, or simply distraction.
So it's about being discerning, choosing which digital interactions are actually worthwhile.
Precisely. Judiciously selecting which digital activities genuinely contribute something positive, maybe connection, learning, creativity, true relaxation, and recognizing which ones are just draining your precious mental energy, focus, and time, leaving you worse off.
How do we make that choice? How do we get better at discerning the worthwhile from the draining?
It comes back to self-awareness and aligning with your values. A worthwhile digital activity is usually one you engage in mindfully, with a clear purpose. It leaves you feeling genuinely enriched, informed, connected, maybe even calmer, rather than depleted, anxious, envious, or agitated.
Example.
Maybe a deep video call with a faraway friend, researching a topic you're genuinely passionate about, learning a new skill through an online course. That could be worthwhile. Mindless scrolling through feeds, comparing yourself to others, engaging in toxic online arguments, consuming content that just makes you angry or fearful, probably in the draining category.
So the Stoic advice is constant self-reflection.
Yes. Regularly asking yourself, is this activity serving my rational social nature? Is it adding to my inner peace, my eudaimonia, or is it detracting from it? That internal check-in, that questioning, is the key to making wiser choices over time.
Okay, so let's say you've identified a desire you want to manage, like that almost automatic twitch to grab your phone when you're bored or anxious, and you can spot the warning signs. The Stoic advice is surprisingly simple, but hard. It's do nothing.
Exactly. Don't immediately act on the feeling. Don't feed the urge. Don't engage with the craving the second it appears. Instead, take a time out. This is so critical. If possible, physically remove yourself from the temptation. Put the phone in another room. Close the laptop. Stand up. Walk away from your desk. Go outside for a minute.
Why does that work?
Because many urges, especially these digitally conditioned ones, are like waves. They build intensity, they crest, but if you don't act on them, they naturally recede. Often within just a minute or two. You don't have to wrestle the wave. You just have to ride it out without getting swept away.
So you only need to deal with the present moment, one craving at a time.
Exactly. Don't get overwhelmed thinking, I can never check my phone again.
Yeah.
Just focus on this urge right now. For this single minute, I choose not to respond. Let the wave pass.
And in that crucial space you create, That pause between the urge and the potential action. The alternative strategy is.
To engage in a different activity instead. Something healthy, something you find intrinsically rewarding, something that actually aligns with your values.
Like what?
Reading a physical book, going for a walk, preferably in nature, having a real face-to-face conversation, working on a creative project, playing a musical instrument, anything that pulls your attention towards something constructive or genuinely fulfilling. The key insight is you are always free to do something else. You always have the power to divert your attention.
I find myself sometimes just replacing one digital distraction with another slightly less bad one, though, like closing Twitter but opening YouTube. What's the stoic secret to choosing truly rewarding alternatives, not just substitute distractions?
Ah, that's a great point. The secret lies in distinguishing between an activity that merely distracts you momentarily from the craving and one that genuinely replaces it with something of value.
And how do we know the difference?
A truly rewarding alternative, from a Stoic viewpoint, is one that engages your rational mind, exercises your virtues, like patience, creativity, learning, or contributes positively to your well-being or the well-being of others. It's an activity that, when you finish it, leaves you feeling a sense of accomplishment, calm, genuine connection, or deeper understanding, not just the restless dissatisfaction that often follows mindless digital consumption.
It's about presence in the alternative activity, too.
Absolutely. If you pick up a book but your mind is still buzzing, itching for notifications, you haven't fully engaged. The practice is to fully commit your attention to the chosen alternative, allowing it to genuinely nourish that little soul Epictetus talked about, rather than just temporarily quiet the craving.
That makes perfect sense. It's about conscious choice, deliberate action, aligned with deeper values. Which leads us beautifully into the next critical area, valuing our time and embracing impermanence, especially in this digital age. This feels huge, maybe the biggest piece of the puzzle.
It really is fundamental. And Seneca, writing 2,000 years ago, just nailed it. He said, time is the only thing that, once loaned, can never be paid back, and therefore the one resource we really need to be careful to apportion wisely.
That hits hard today, doesn't it? Our lives feel so packed, so busy, yet maybe not always meaningful. That quote seems to define our struggle with digital distraction.
It transcends time, because time is the currency of life itself. Seneca was adamant that we all actually have more than enough time. The problem isn't the quantity.
Oh, the problem is
We waste most of it. He was particularly critical of people who postpone all their real plans, their dreams, until retirement. He'd ask, do you even know you'll make it? Or if you'll be healthy enough then?
And that applies so directly, maybe even painfully, to the hours, days, weeks, maybe years, lost to passive digital consumption.
Absolutely. The endless scrolling, the binge watching that leaves you feeling empty, the superficial online chatter. We're effectively spending our finite, non-refundable life currency on things that often yield little or no real lasting return. We're sacrificing present moments, our vitality, our capacity for deep focus and connection for what exactly? Often just a vague, unfulfilling digital blur.
So a Stoic would absolutely challenge us. Are we paying enough attention to what is truly important in our lives? Or are we letting ourselves be constantly distracted by things that are inconsequential, or maybe even downright destructive?
Precisely. And it's not just about the quantity of time spent, but the quality. Pouring more hours onto a screen doesn't equal productivity or fulfillment. In fact, our sources remind us it can be deleterious if that time lacks focus and quality.
Because we need breaks.
Variety.
Yes, human beings need rest. We need variety of stimuli to maintain focus and creativity. Endless, fragmented, low-quality attention, like mindless scrolling, doesn't provide that. It often just leaves us feeling drained without being truly rested or restored. Seneca believed quality trumped quantity.
Absolutely. Quality of attention was paramount. If you spend 3 hours working, but you're constantly checking email, switching tabs, glancing at your phone, the quality of that time is garbage. A truly focused, undistracted 30 minutes can be far more productive and honestly more satisfying than 3 hours of fractured attention.
So for the Stoics, prioritizing meant
Focusing on activities that build character, deepen understanding, contribute to your duties, to yourself, family, community, and cultivate virtue. The digital world constantly tempts us to neglect these deeper priorities, offering easy, shallow engagement instead of deep work, superficial interactions instead of genuine connection. It's a relentless drain on our most valuable asset, our focused time and attention.
which brings us to that powerful Maybe slightly morbid Stoic practice, memento mori, remember you must die, or live each day as if it were your last.
Right, and it's crucial to understand why they practiced this. It wasn't because they were obsessed with death or gloomy, quite the opposite.
They did it because
Because they wanted to get the absolute most out of life. That stark reminder of mortality, of our finite time, helps us extract the full value of that day. It motivates us to stop wasting our precious numbered days on trivialities.
it's like an urgent call to focus on what truly matters. How does really internalizing our own mortality shift our relationship with our phones, with digital distractions?
It forces a radical reevaluation of priorities. If today were genuinely your last day on Earth, would you really spend 2 hours scrolling through Instagram feeds? Would you waste energy arguing with a stranger on Twitter? Probably not.
Yeah, unlikely. You'd probably want to.
Connect with loved ones. Do something meaningful. Spend time in nature. Reflect. Finish important work. Memento Mori cuts through the digital noise like a laser. It starkly reveals the triviality of so many of our distractions. It makes you acutely aware that every single moment spent mindlessly scrolling is a moment irretrievably stolen from a potentially meaningful, real-world experience, a deep conversation, an opportunity for growth or contribution.
It's not about fearing death, then.
No, it's about a fierce love of life, a determination to live it actively, intentionally, fully, not just passively consuming fragments of other people's curated lives through a screen.
Steve Jobs famously used a version of this, didn't he? Asking himself that question every morning.
He did. For over 30 years, he said, he asked himself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today?
And if the answer was no, too many days in a row.
I know I need to change something. That is such a potent, almost confronting question to ask yourself about your daily digital habits. What would you do differently if the answer regarding your screen time was no, day after day?
It's like an acid test for your priorities, for whether your actions align with your values.
Totally. If the answer is consistently no for how you're spending your digital time, it immediately flags a disconnect. You might realize you'd want to spend less time consuming and more time creating, less time reacting emotionally and more time reflecting calmly, less time comparing yourself to others and more time appreciating what you have.
It forces you to face the opportunity cost. Every click, every swipe has a cost in time and attention that could have gone elsewhere.
Exactly. The shift is profound, moving from passive consumption driven by algorithms and notifications to active engagement driven by your own internal purpose and values. It helps you design your day, including your digital interactions, with the end in mind, whether that's the end of the day or the end of life itself.
Wow. Okay. And related to this is the practice of negative visualization, right? Contemplating impermanence.
Yes. Thinking about the fact that everything around us, everything we value, is temporary. It won't last forever. This isn't meant to be depressing, but freeing.
How is it freeing?
It helps us appreciate what we do have right now much more deeply. And it prepares us mentally for inevitable change and loss, making us more resilient when it happens. In the digital context, this means acknowledging that trends, platforms, apps, even online friendships, they're all ephemeral. They rise and fall.
So we shouldn't get too attached.
We should recognize their transient nature. Our attention, however, is finite and non-renewable. That makes how we allocate it even more critical. We shouldn't waste it on things that won't last and don't truly matter.
Epictetus had that blunt way of putting it. Everything we have and love is merely on loan.
Exactly. Your phone, your laptop, your internet connection, your social media accounts, your online followers, all on loan from fortune or fate or the universe, however you want to frame it. Nothing can be kept forever. Realizing this helps us not to fear the loss, like losing followers, or a platform shutting down, or needing to disconnect, but rather to cherish and use wisely the time we have with these tools and connections while we have them.
It creates freedom from clinging.
Precisely. If it's just on loan, you can enjoy it, appreciate its utility, but you don't grasp it so tightly that its eventual return or its temporary absence causes you deep suffering.
And that other stark, almost haunting fragment from Epictetus, the one Marcus Aurelius preserved. You are a little soul bearing the weight of a dead body.
Powerful, isn't it? A visceral reminder of our mortality, yes, but also of the preciousness of our consciousness, or reason that little soul. It urges us, compels us to prioritize what truly nourishes that soul, our true self, our rational core.
Over what merely distracts or titillates the dead body, the senses, the impulses, through endless digital noise and superficial input. What does nourishing the little soul actually look like in practice today in our hyper-connected world?
In our modern context, nourishing the soul means actively choosing activities that foster wisdom, virtue, genuine human connection, and inner peace. It means choosing deep work over shallow distraction, meaningful conversation, even if mediated by tech, over superficial online banter, spending time in nature instead of scrolling feeds, engaging in self-reflection rather than in constant external comparisons.
So it's about prioritizing.
Prioritizing intellectual growth, acts of kindness and contribution, building resilience, and spending your precious time and attention on things that deeply resonate with your core values, rather than just reacting to whatever external digital stimulus flashes brightest. It's choosing presence and purpose over passive consumption.
That's incredibly evocative, and it connects to Marcus Aurelius's idea about the thickness of the present moment.
Ah, yes, the durative present.
Sure.
He didn't see the present as just this infinitely thin mathematical instant that's gone before you grasp it,
He saw it
as having a certain thickness, a duration, a lived experience.
Yeah.
It's the only time we actually inhabit the space where our thoughts, choices, and actions happen. Can you visualize that? Is it like we can actually live inside a single frame of a movie? Or is it more about the quality of our attention within that moment? It's much more the latter, the quality and the duration of your focused attention within that moment. Imagine a musician playing one beautiful, sustained note on a cello. It's not just a blip. It has depth, resonance, a beginning, middle, and end. That's the thickness.
And in our digital lives,
We're often just skipping frantically between disconnected blips, never really inhabiting any single moment fully. Marcus suggested we can actually lessen the burden of life by circumscribing the present, by focusing intensely on just this moment, just this task, making it more manageable and more real.
So in the digital age, that means intentionally focusing.
Yes. Focusing on the task at hand, the conversation you're in, even online, the physical experience you're having right now, rather than letting your attention be constantly fragmented and pulled away by notifications and the lure of the next thing. It's about deliberately extending that thick moment of focused presence.
That's a powerful way to frame it. And Marcus used the analogy of life being like songs or dances, right? Made up of units that need that thickness.
He did.
Yeah.
He observed that just stringing together a succession of unreal entities, like, say, an endless stream of meaningless, disconnected notifications or fleeting images in a feed that can't create a coherent dance or a beautiful song. It can't create a life of substance.
It just remains noise, fragments.
Exactly. A song isn't just random notes. It's the melody, the rhythm, the structure that gives it meaning. A dance isn't just flailing limbs. It's the flow, the intention, the story. Our digital lives, when driven purely by distraction, often become like that, just a series of isolated, unreal blips, lacking purpose, depth, or connection. They don't weave together into a meaningful narrative.
So the Stoic challenge is to make our moments, even the digital ones, count for something.
Yes, to consciously imbue them with intention, with focus, with connection to our values, to transform them from fleeting distractions into actual building blocks of a substantial, well-lived, coherent life, turning the noise into music, you might say.
Okay, so we've covered reclaiming inner control, moderating desires, valuing time. Let's move into our final section, cultivating rationality and mindful engagement. And here we can bring back that idea of the philosopher as doctor, using it for constant self-monitoring of our digital habits.
Right. Just like someone managing a chronic condition needs to constantly monitor themselves, their symptoms, their triggers. We need to do the same with our digital behavior. Stoicism is, at its heart, training in critical self-reflection. How are we perceiving the digital world? How are we interpreting it? How is it affecting us?
What specific questions should we be asking ourselves regularly to perform this kind of self-diagnosis, like a daily checkup?
It's exactly like a checkup. Key questions might be, how did I feel before, during, and immediately after I spent time on that app or website? Was that time genuinely purposeful, or was it just an automatic reflex, a habit? Did that interaction bring me closer to my values or pull me further away? Did I end up feeling calmer and more in control, or more anxious, agitated, or drained? And the big one, am I using this tool, or is this tool using me?
That last one is crucial. It requires real honesty.
It does. It's about being an unbiased observer of your own patterns, like a doctor noting symptoms and tracking progress, or lack thereof.
And it's also about understanding our mind's own quirks, right? Our intellect has this amazing power, but also this tendency to worry.
Yes, the Stoics were very aware of this. Our minds naturally anticipate threats, run scenarios, often dwelling on things that haven't happened or that we can't control.
So to gain tranquility, they taught we need to almost misuse our intellect. How does that work?
We misuse it not in a bad way, but we redirect it from its tendency to generate anxiety towards its proper function. Logical discernment. First, clearly identify the worry. I'm anxious about what people might think of my online post. Then rigorously apply the dichotomy of control. Can I actually control what other people think? No. Conclusion. Therefore, this anxiety is based on something outside my control, making it futile and irrational.
So you use reason to dismantle the worry itself.
Exactly. Instead of letting reason spin anxious what-if scenarios, you use reason to logically demonstrate why the anxiety is unfounded or unhelpful. It's like building a mental firewall.
Yeah.
Identify the external trigger, the post, the potential judgment. Assess if the outcome is truly within your control, and if it's not, use your reason to consciously quarantine the associated worry. Stop it from infecting your inner peace.
And this ties back to the mind shaping our experience even of pleasure or pain.
Yes. Our judgments about feelings heavily influence how we experience them. The perceived pleasure of getting a notification or the pain of missing out is largely constructed by our internal narrative, our judgments. Recognizing this gives us the power to reshape those reactions, to move beyond the immediate, conditioned hit towards a more considered, rational response.
Absolutely. And one of the most critical practices for doing that is cultivating the crucial pause, resisting impulsive digital reactions.
So important. Seneca nailed it regarding anger. Delay is, in fact, our chief defense. The same principle applies perfectly, maybe even more so, to impulsive digital behavior. The angry reply, the thoughtless share, the instant click.
So the advice isn't necessarily to fight the urge head on.
Often, avoidance or delay is the smarter strategy in the heat of the moment. Don't try to wrestle the impulse into submission, just don't act on it immediately. Create space.
And Epictetus gave some very direct advice here too, didn't he, about being harmed?
He did. He said something like, remember, it's not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed. Your scent is required. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your own mind is complicit in the provocation.
Our mind is complicit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which leads to his punchline. Which is why it is essential that we not respond impulsively to impressions. Take a moment before reacting, and you will find it is easier to maintain control. That pause gives your rational mind, your gatekeeper, a chance to step in.
This pause and take a deep breath sounds so simple. Yet, as our sources point out, it's very difficult to pull off in the actual moment, especially when an online comment really triggers us or that notification feels incredibly urgent. Why is it so hard, and what are some practical tips to actually implement that pause in our fast-paced digital lives?
It's hard because our brains are wired for immediate responses, threat detection, reward seeking. And digital platforms are expert engineers of stimuli that trigger those wires instantly. The pull feels almost primal, bypassing our rational thought.
So practical tips to build that pause muscle.
Create physical barriers first. Phone in another room, notifications off, dedicated times for checking. Create mental cues. When you feel the urge, consciously take one deep breath, count slowly to 10. Ask yourself that critical question. Is responding right now truly necessary? What's the wisest action? If someone provokes you online, maybe draft the angry reply, but don't send it. Close the app, walk away for 5 minutes, and then reread it.
Does the urge fade?
Often, yes. Many impulses, both negative anger and positive craving, lose a lot of their intensity if you simply don't feed them instantly. That pause allows you to examine the impression more rationally, decide if it's worth your energy, and choose a response aligned with your values, not just your initial reaction. It's challenging, yes, but the improvement in your digital well-being and overall peace of mind can be dramatic.
And this connects right back to that idea of speaking and scrolling without judging, sticking to facts over interpretations.
Exactly. Distinguishing matters of fact, things you can verify through observation, from value judgments, which we should generally hold back on unless we have sufficient information and reason. This is super hard online, where everything seems drenched in opinion and emotion.
So when scrolling through news or social media,
The Stoic practice is stick to the facts presented. This event occurred. This person said this. Avoid immediately layering on your strong value judgments. This is terrible. This person is an idiot. This is amazing.
why is that restraint so helpful?
It prevents self-deception, stops you from getting emotionally hijacked by incomplete or biased information, and helps you maintain that crucial, unruffled temper. It keeps you closer to reality. It's especially valuable in polarized discussions like politics online, where jumping to judgment just fuels the fire and hinders understanding.
And Seneca's point about our appetite for indignation, being too quick to find offense.
Yeah, he noticed we almost seem to enjoy being outraged sometimes. It feels validating, maybe makes us feel morally superior. He advised deliberately tilting the other way. Be slow to assume someone meant offense. Distrust your initial suspicious interpretations. Give people the benefit of the doubt, especially online where context is so easily lost.
That's incredibly relevant for navigating online arguments or comment sections, where indignation seems to be the main currency. Why do we have this appetite for indignation online, and how can we possibly distrust those gut feelings when our immediate reaction screams, I am right to be angry?
The online environment fuels it. Anonymity, lack of nonverbal cues, echo chambers. It all makes it easier to dehumanize others, assume the worst, and interpret things negatively. That feeling of indignation can also give a sense of belonging, us versus them, a jolt of self-righteous energy, even a dopamine hit when others agree with our outrage.
So, how do we fight it? How do we distrust that powerful instinct?
Cultivate a habit of charity and patience. Consciously assume good intent first, or at least neutrality, till proven otherwise. Instead of firing back with accusations, ask clarifying questions. Could you explain what you mean by that? And crucially, when you feel that hot surge of indignation rising, deploy the pause. Ask yourself honestly, am I seeking truth here or just a fight? Am I trying to understand or just to win? Is this feeling actually serving me or anyone else? The Stoics would remind us our inner peace is far too valuable to trade for the cheap, fleeting, often destructive thrill of being indignant online.
Assume good intent. Ask clarifying questions. Pause. Okay, finally, the last crucial piece. Choosing your digital company wisely.
Hugely important. Seneca believed character is contagious, both good and bad. He famously said something like, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with."
And he urged us to choose those companions carefully.
Yes, because good people are mutually helpful because they exercise each other's virtues. Bad company, conversely, tends to drag you down. And this principle applies just as strongly, maybe even more strongly today, to our digital company.
How so?
The accounts you follow, the online communities you join, the news sources you rely on, the YouTubers or podcasters you listen to. All of this shapes your thinking, your mood, your focus, your values, your entire worldview, often subtly but powerfully over time. As Epictetus put it simply, if a companion is dirty, his friends cannot help but get a little dirty too.
So if your feed is full of negativity, outrage, endless comparison, superficiality,
It'll rub off on you, it will color your perception, and likely diminish your tranquility and focus.
Epictetus advised avoiding non-philosophers, didn't he? Meaning people not really interested in virtue or self-improvement. Be careful not to sink to their level.
He did. Now, applying that today doesn't mean being a snob. It means being a conscious curator. It means deliberately, maybe even ruthlessly, pruning your digital feeds. Prioritize sources that genuinely uplift, educate, inspire deep thought, and align with the values you aspire to.
And actively remove or mute sources.
That consistently provoke anger or anxiety, that promote division or superficiality, that encourage vice like envy or greed, or that simply drain your mental energy and leave you feeling worse. This isn't about creating an echo chamber where you never hear different views. It's about creating a virtuous chamber, an environment, digital and physical, that supports your growth and protects your inner citadel from constant negativity and distraction.
What are some concrete, practical steps someone listening could take today to start curating their digital company more wisely?
Start with a quick digital audit. Scroll through your main social media feeds, look at your news subscription, your podcast queue. For each major source, ask honestly, does consuming this generally make me feel better informed, more thoughtful, more inspired, or does it usually leave me feeling anxious, angry, envious, or just drained and distracted?
And if the answer is the latter,
Unfollow, mute, unsubscribe, block if necessary. Be ruthless in protecting your attention and peace of mind. Then actively seek out and add sources that do promote rational thought, constructive dialogue, genuine learning, and virtuous living. Seek out the digital philosophers, the people sharing wisdom, fostering growth, encouraging reflection. It's about consciously designing your informational environment to reflect the person you want to become.
wow, okay, what a deep dive that was. We've really seen how this ancient Stoic wisdom offers incredibly profound, but also really practical strategies for navigating our chaotic modern digital world.
It really does. From understanding what's truly in our control, that dichotomy, and consciously choosing our reactions, our ascent.
To actively moderating our desires for constant stimulation, really valuing our finite time using practices like memento mori.
And mindfully, deliberately curating our digital environment, choosing our influences wisely. These aren't just abstract ideas, they are powerful, actionable tools.
Tools for reclaiming our focus, finding more tranquility, and living a more deliberate, meaningful life, even surrounded by digital noise.
Exactly. And it's crucial to remember as we wrap up that Stoicism isn't about hitting some state of instant perfection, becoming a sage overnight. That wasn't the goal even for them.
It's about progress.
It's all about progress. The ancient term was prokoptantes, literally, those who are making progress. Everyone practicing Stoicism is on that path, striving, learning, improving day by day. So your journey towards digital minimalism, towards a more deliberate digital life, it's one of ongoing practice, continuous self-reflection. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient with yourself.
That's a great reminder. Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to take away and chew on. In a world that is actively, intentionally designed to constantly snatch your attention, to capture and monetize every sliver of your focus, what is one deliberate, maybe even small step you will commit to taking today to practice stoic temperance and reclaim just a little bit of that precious attention?
How will you start making your digital tools truly serve your purposes, align with your deeply held values, rather than just letting yourself become enslaved to theirs? What does living well actually look like for you in the midst of this relentless attention economy? And how will you actively, consciously pursue that vision starting now?